Hello and good morning to another edition of Money Truth Moments with your very own Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I'm wonderful. Good morning.
What a beautiful day. It's Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. We're all bright, ready to hear some awesome wisdom. We continue on our journey. Folks, if you're just joining us, thank you for being here this morning. We are here again live every Tuesday at 8 a.m. with Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. This week, we are continuing our series on creating money reverence, which has been a great topic in the last week. And we've covered quite a bit of ground. So I want to make sure that we don't lose any time because we've got 3 areas that I think folks are going to be very interested in learning. What do you say we get started?
I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
All right. So last week, we kind of ended talking about a little bit about the biblical perspective on money and the actual guide in your life. And you went into a really great detail. And folks, if you didn't catch last week's show, please do so. Share it out because it's very filled with a lot of wisdom and a lot of just great information as well too. So make sure you check that out, and it'll make more sense following the series along and what we're moving to. So this week, let's continue talking a little bit more about honoring money as a sacred tool, right? Creating that money reverence. What does that lead to in mismanagement and using it wisely? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So when you revere money, when you experience money reverence, you're honoring money. You're like giving it respect and giving it its rightful place as a tool in your home or in your business. And so it's all about managing it well and taking care of it, just like you would take care of a relationship or nurture, a relationship that's important to you. So when we look biblically at pretty much how to do life, the results of doing life well, even though we all approach it differently, is peace, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love, right? So that's what life's all about. If we can attain some level of peace, some level of hope, and some level of love, we're in a good place, whatever that looks like for each of us. So financially, you can have that same experience. So things that show up in your life financially when you're experiencing peace are things like you don't have IRS knocking at your door. You're not getting letters from them saying you owe more, or you didn't put enough away, or something like that. It might be that you have that stress, come around the 25th or 26th of the month. It's like, I got so many days left and the money's gone. It's that lack of peace when that happens. So how do you put that in? Well, one practical way that you can do that is the 40-30-30 principle. You may have heard of that. So 40-30-30 is taught many different ways, and it can be approached many different ways. But if you categorize your spending where you have needs, wants, and wishes, if your needs represent 40% of your income or your cash flow, your wants represent 30%, and your wishes represent 30%, you'll always have enough. You'll have enough to have the extras in life that you want, be able to take a trip or go to the movies or things like that. But you'll never have to worry about having the ends meet to take care of housing and gas and utilities and food and the basics that you need, insurance, premiums, some things like that. So 40-30-30 could be needs, wants, and wishes. It could be looked at as now, soon, and later. So 40% is what you need to live on right now. And I know it seems like a small percentage if you're used to living at 90 or 100 or more percent. But this is the goal. As you get raises and as you increase your wealth over the years, try to spend 40% on just what you need day to day for now. Then you have soon money and you have later money. So there's now, soon, and later, 40-30-30. And if you take that approach or work toward that approach, you're always going to feel like you have plenty and you're not going to have to worry about the stress of running out of money. Another thing that you can do to bring more peace in your life is to not worry about missing payments or being late, and then you get that late charge. I hate those late fees. So you can avoid that most of the time if you have auto pay set up, where the utilities are automatically coming out of your account that you use for those things. Your housing account is automatically sucked out on the 1st or the 5th or whenever you do that. If you have a car payment, all of these things that you have that are regular bills, insurance premiums, things like that, you can have them set up so they're auto pay and you don't have to deal with it's late. So those are things that you can do to bring peace. And if we have time, I'd love to get in some things that you can do to bring hope and love. How are we doing on time?
We actually we're doing very well. So if you want to jump in and share some of that, that would be fantastic.
All right. So we've got some things around peace that we can actually do day to day. How about hope? Hope is when you think about a positive approach to tomorrow. What's going to happen in the coming years? What's going to happen in the coming weeks and months that give me hope and make me feel like it's just worth waking up every day? One of the things that you can do is plan for the next generation. So if education is important to you, you can invest in a 529 account. Now, we used to have an educational IRA, but they've been replaced by the tax code 529. So it's nothing fancy about the number, it's just where it is in the IRS tax code. So if you invest in a 529, this is one of the few investments that you can make for your future education, for your children, for their children, that allows the money to grow while you're waiting for that tuition to come to you. It allows for tax-free growth. So you don't pay tax on the money as it's growing. And if you put in 10,000 and by the time you take it out, it's 20,000, that 10,000 that grew in there, you don't pay tax now or later. It's amazing. So it's one of the few gimmies that we have left from Sam, Uncle Sam, IRS. So 529 is a great way to go. You don't have to wait until your kids are in 5th or 6th grade. When you have a baby, you want to think 529. And it's the most amazing thing over the years as we've been helping clients do these and use them ourselves. It's amazing how when you build it, they will come. So if you have a baby and you set up a 529, all the future years of Easter gifts, Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, graduations, and all that, all your relatives that love you and care about the education of your child will put money in that account and help you get there. It's amazing. So 529 is your tip there for hope. Other things that you can do is invest in extracurricular activities that are represented by your values. So if you're a musical family, if you're a sports family, if you're a travel family, if you have these things that enrich your lives, art, all those things that make life just more fun, more exciting, more adventurous, you want to invest in those activities and those things for your children, for their children. Think about legacy. So legacy isn't always, inheriting grandma's house or getting, a nice big fat check from that uncle that we barely knew. It's leaving who you were inside of the people that you leave behind. It's your stories and your life lessons and the values that you share. Maybe it's about making a difference and you like to do mission trips. I've got a great friend that loves to he's involved in one of those wheelchair charities. And they go to South America and take wheelchairs to countries, to people where they would never, ever be able to see one. So people that had zero mobility now are living full lives. And if it weren't for a charity like that, and there are many good ones like that, they wouldn't have a life at all. They would just be sitting on the side of the road or staying at home. And so they're able to get out and work and do society and be social. And it's amazing. But yeah, that's just one of the things that just makes life so full. And they do these trips. They go to South America and they take new people that have never been abroad, who've never seen a third world or developing country. And they have that experience where it's amazing when you go to these other places and you come home, and I'm not talking about Paris, and all these fancy cities, but when you go to places that are remote and they really have very little, and you come home, it's like everything is a different color. The colors are brighter, the smells are richer. Your perspective shifts when you have an experience like that. So if you haven't had an experience like that where you help people less fortunate, like nose to nose and knee to knee, I encourage you to do that. If you have little kids or young adult kids, involve them in those experiences because it makes life so much richer to gain that perspective and understand really what we have here. But that's one thing that you can do. It brings hope, not just to us to have those experiences. It brings hope to other people. Mosquito nets, drilling wells where they don't have water, taking medicine where they don't have any hospitals, things like that. And hope for us might be simply I'm hoping, that we put enough taxes away so we don't get a big fat bill in March, right? So there's all kinds of ways to financially prepare for hope. And then there's love. We talked about things you can do in the area of peace, hope, and then there's love. And love is all about connecting. Love is all about relationship. It's about doing things that you love with people that you care about, whether it's causes you care about or things that enrich your life or just make it fun for you. And you have the people around you um, that enjoy a relationship with you that's healthy and whole and fulfilling. That's the love part. And so, coming from the perspective of money and finances, if you have relatives in another state, either you're going to be driving or flying there, or they're going to be driving or flying here. And that takes money, right? That's money outside of your 40% of living expenses. If they live in another country, you're going to want to go there. They're going to want to come here. You're going to need to use technology to be able to communicate. You're going to want to be with them. Maybe you want to vacation with them a couple times a year, have holidays together. That takes money. So relationships sometimes have a financial aspect to them, right? Unless we all live in the same compound and not everybody gets to do that or wants to do that, right? Some people do. But it takes money to develop relationships. If there are things that you do with people that you care about, maybe you're golfing, that takes money. You got to have the green fees. Maybe you're traveling together. Maybe you're doing music together, or you get season tickets and you go to the musicals together or the theater together every month or so. Those things take money to develop relationships. And what I'm not saying is to have love in your life, you have to have a lot of money, because it doesn't take a lot of money, but you can use money as a tool to enhance your relationships and do things for other people and with other people that you care about. So there you have it, peace, hope, and love, and some practical ways to express those dynamics in your life.
Very powerful. Folks, if you're just joining us, this is what you get with another Money Truth moment, right? This is very powerful, peace, love, and hope, right? We covered that before, but today it just brings it into perspective in a whole new light. So I appreciate you sharing that, folks. Thank you for joining us. If you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. There is a wealth of resources that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. But I also want to expand a little bit about, because you touched on legacy. And that's very important. There's a misconception about legacy, what it really means and all of that. But if you can just take a few minutes, I want you to talk to folks about your legacy, the purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, because I think it's also very important that people realize that this isn't about you trying to sell, 2 billion books or whatever. It's not about that, or trying to get people to sign up or anything like that. This is really about your own legacy, but I'll let you speak to that if you could.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of times people think legacy means you have a big estate, and estate means you have a castle with a moat, right? But we all have legacy. We all have an estate. An estate is just our stuff. Maybe we own a house, maybe we don't. Maybe we own a car, maybe we don't. Maybe we have a big IRA, maybe we don't, right? But whatever we have, we probably have a computer because you're on one now, or some kind of device. That's part of your estate. If you go, drive a car to work or to the store, that's part of your estate. The desk you're sitting at, the chair you're sitting on, that is part of your estate. So it doesn't mean that you have to have an enormous amount of wealth to have an estate. And you know that because you've driven by those estate sales, and what you see out on the curb is all their junk, right? That's the estate. It's not the castle with the moat. So for legacy, we all have one. And I would propose to you that legacy is not just something that you leave. People say leave your legacy. It's not just what's there when you're gone. It's something that you create while you're here. You get to create how you're remembered, how you're thought of, what people learn from you, how you impact their lives long beyond your lifetime. So that's your legacy. You get to create it. So what I've been working on the last 5 or 6 years is my professional legacy, which part of it is right here, Money, Truth, and Life. So we have Money, Truth moments to help people that didn't understand a concept, or that just might gain a new perspective from hearing something a different way, go, oh, I get it. That kind of makes sense now. I never really knew what that meant, or I wasn't sure what to do. But now I at least know enough to know what questions to ask. and my family and my business is better off for it. So that's part of my legacy. I've got online videos that you can watch. I've got website that you can go to. There's articles out there. I've got books. There are things that you can use, tools that you can use to make life better at your house when you're thinking about your finances and your future. And so that's part of my legacy. Obviously, our 5 children is a big deal with my legacy. The ministry work that I've done over the years and the impact I'm having in some of our philanthropic endeavors, those are part of my legacy too. But I'm really proud of Money, Truth, and Life because it's something so practical and so reachable and available for anyone for no money or a couple of bucks, depending on what you're approaching. I wanted to put that in the world before I'm through with my work, because over 40 years of working with families and clients and missionaries and pastors and business owners and very wealthy people, I have learned ways to communicate some of the financial concepts, which can be very overwhelming and very daunting unless you have a degree in it or you grew up with bankers as parents or an accountant mom or something. But I found a way to make some of these concepts very simple and understandable so you know what you're working with. You can see what the tools are. If you went into a dentist office and you were going to become one of those hygienists, and you walk in and you see that whole tray of all those scary silver instruments they all have a handle, but what's on the end of the handle, they're all a little bit different. Yep. But they're still pokey and shiny and sharp, right? Yep. But you look at it and it's like, I don't know where to start with all those things because you don't know what the tools are. But if you go to school, the first couple of months, they're going to say, here's all the tools. Here's how we use this one. Here's how this one's a little different. Here's when you might want to use that. That's what Money, Truth, and Life does for finances. It gives you enough information about the tools to know which one to pull, which one not to touch, and how to really make a difference using what you know.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's important for folks to know that why you're doing this, why you're sharing your wisdom. And, knock on wood, you're just not retiring anytime soon. We're hoping another 40 years of wisdom. That's for sure. You know what I mean? So
another 40, I don't know. Maybe. My mom is almost 92 and going strong, so maybe.
Hey, there you go, right? So we appreciate that. I want to make sure that we continue also, and I want to ask you another question. So we've talked about, the money as a sacred tool. We've covered biblical perspectives, creating that money reverence. But what happens after we create that reverence in our entire family? Then what?
Well, you want to. It's kind of like when you're working with your calendar. You put the important things in first, and then the less important things, and then all the extra stuff. Just there's not room for it. When people are doing things that are not important, they fill their calendar with that. There's not room for the important things. So financially, it's kind of the same. You want to have healthy boundaries when you're dealing with your finances. And I think the 2 big areas that most people struggle with this is with their saving, which is really a spending issue. Yeah, let's start with that one. And then if there's time, we'll get into another one. But a lot of people, when, they're approaching me, or maybe I'll speak and then they'll have questions after, or maybe from a show, they'll ask questions. They say, I just feel like no matter how much money I make, I get raises and, I look at what we used to make and what we make now, and now there's more, but it still seems tight. It still seems like there's not enough. And why? Because we have more. We never thought we'd make this much. We pay more in taxes now than we ever thought we'd make. And it still seems tight. So where is it going? Why is it such a struggle? And it comes down to setting boundaries, and it comes down to having discipline. We talked about one of the ways that you could start to attain that is the 40-30-30. When the money comes in, you don't have 100% of, let's say you made $5,000 that month. You don't have $5,000 to spend. You only have 40% of that, right? So let's plan on living on the 2,000, and then we'll work with the other 3, for the other goals and for the wants. So that's one thing that you can do, but you've got to have that boundary. And that boundary has to start with you just choosing to have enough, choosing to have money in savings to plan for tomorrow. If you don't pay yourself first, it's not going to happen. And that's just a boundary you have to decide, choose to set. Another thing that you can do is avoid over leveraging. And this is usually what causes a spending problem. You spend too much or you commit to too much. And it's a shame, kids coming out of college end up with debt, from student loans, but also while they're out on the quad, going to all of their social activities and their fraternity things, whatever they're doing on campus, they always have these tables out there. And it's these credit card companies and banks trying to get them to sign up for these really great deals. They get a free t-shirt, candy bar, whatever, to sign up for a credit card and fill out a credit card application. You get them in the mail every day, right? They're online every day. So now they have credit and they're like, oh, it's free stuff, right? And so they start getting this credit debt built up, and then they get another one and they get another one. And then they play the games of shift. Well, this one has less interest, so I'm going to move it all over here. Well, then they fill that one up again. So pretty soon it just becomes this impossible pile of debt. And it sometimes takes years to recover from something like that. So if you set a boundary of only living on your money, and the 40-30-30 will help, not living on the bank's money, and if you're in that issue, come up with a debt reduction strategy to eliminate all of that. I mean, it will give you the most freedom possible. But if you are not in that bad place yet, don't go there. And if you need to recover, do it. But if you're not there, just make sure that boundary, that line is very bright, that you don't step over. Now, I don't mean don't go to the bank and borrow money to buy a house, or capitalize a business or something like that. But you want to do it with a lot of wisdom around that, because leverage is good. Debt is not necessarily good, and they're not the same. A lot of people confuse them, but they're not the same. So I hope that helps. I'm just having boundaries around your spending, which means you're going to be saving for you, money for you, and then to have boundaries around over leveraging and not taking on too much debt. Uh-oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. So this is a great way also, and a great segment to talk about your website. Folks, thank you for joining us. Make sure that you watch the beginning of the show so you can catch a lot of the great content that Judy just spoke about, talking about, we just talked about boundaries as well, honoring money as a sacred, honoring reverence, I should say. But I wanted folks to also for you to take a moment and tell folks just the amount of resources that are available at judycopenbarger.com. If you can briefly do that for us, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can go to judycopenbarger.com and hit the green button to give you access to the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And there are videos there, courses and classes in every area of finance and all the pillars of finance. So there's entities, legal entities. You can learn about wills and trusts and LLCs and LLPs. You can learn about stocks and bonds and cash flow. And some of the things we've talked about today, not only investment tools, but things that you can do as strategy to make sure that you're saving, like really saving money, not just putting it, burying the nut for a little while later when you need it, but actually saving for your future. So there's videos and classes and courses on that program for any of those. And right now you can go for a whole week and watch all the classes you want for no money. You don't have to subscribe. You can just sign up and watch those classes. If you want to continue with the coursework, you can do that. But if there's just one or two things in your financial life that you've been concerned about or want to learn about, or a big decision you're about to make, that might make all the difference in the world to watch the class around that before you go talk to your subject matter expert or your salesman or whoever you're talking to. So that's available for you. We also have the Money, Truth, and Life book. So if you prefer to read or go on Kindle and read it, Money, Truth, and Life does all of those things. There are practical stories in there of every aspect of finance that will help you understand not only what to do, but more importantly, what not to do.
Right.
So you can learn from the mistakes of other people. But it goes through also a primer level of all these parts of finance, words you may have heard: traditional IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, Roth 401k, 403b. What are those? How do I use them? How much should I be investing in, like at work, if at all? And what's right for me at my house? You'll gain a lot of that information and value from Money, Truth, and Life, the book.
And I appreciate you sharing that because, in reality, a lot of folks, we don't know exactly what's out there. We don't know Roth, 401b, XYZ, who knows, right? It's just concepts that are way over our head, but I'm glad And I've gone to the website, folks. You've got to take some time. It's free. There's a lot of these questions and a lot of things that are rolling in your mind about, buying versus leasing, versus, whatever it is. She just talked about Roth IRA, different plans and all of that stuff as well. It's there, and it's just a click away. So, take advantage of that. It's free. There's no excuse for you not to be able to do it. So, with that said, I know that we're getting close to the end of the show, but it's my favorite part of the show, which is the Money Truth Challenge. Yes.
Here's a challenge. Okay, are you ready? You ready for
Let's
it?
do it. Yes.
So today we talked about money reverence and the concept of peace, hope, and love. So what I'd like you to do is take your pen and your paper. You got to write it down. It goes from your head down through your hand to the paper. And there's something magical about writing, not just typing, or clicking with your thumbs. So what I'd like you to do is write down 3 things in the area of peace. We talked about what would bring peace, having enough in savings, having enough payroll deductions for taxes, having enough money so you're not running out, you're not spending too much. What things can you do practically and financially that will bring more peace to your family, your household? Same thing. What will bring more hope? You think about legacy, you think about education, you think about adventures in life and things that make life better. What are some things that you can do practically with your money and with your money planning to bring more hope to your family? And finally, love. What will bring more love, more connection with other humans, more quality of life with the people that you care about? What things can you do financially that will bring you short and long term more love? So peace, hope, and love. That's your homework. That's your challenge.
And folks, if you want a little bit also more examples, make sure you watch the show. Follow the repeat today, because Judy did cover this in quite a bit of very extensively too. And it was just phenomenal wisdom, things that you can definitely apply to your everyday life, not only in your personal life, but I think in definitely business. You can definitely benefit from that as well too. You have the tools available. Follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. There's a wealth of resources like we just mentioned. You have your challenge. So we want to hear from you guys. Make sure you share that with us. Send us a message, and we'd love to talk about that on the air as well too for the one of the next shows coming up. So Judy, we're coming to the end of the show. Any last parting words for all of us?
Just put more peace, hope, and love in every day.
Awesome. Remember, folks, we're here every Tuesday morning, Money Truth Moments at 8 a.m. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you, Judy.
My pleasure.